This week in Boomtown, Microsoft hits pause on a $1 billion project for Central Ohio. We're breaking down what this means for 3 local communities. Plus, a growing school district bursting at the seams.
We will need a place for kids to attend school, and those 3 buildings that were already over capacity are going to continue to feel that strain.
Why Southwest Licking says new buildings are critical and what it means for your taxes this May. And from the roads to the rails, the push from state lawmakers to say all aboard.
It'll allow people to be connected to jobs, people to be connected to families, to utilize some of the incredible healthcare systems.
Could trains soon connect the state's largest cities? Central Ohio, we know, is booming, and we all see it and feel it. Whether it's traffic, new homes, or even crowded schools, leaders in this region will have to figure out how to embrace 1 million more people in the coming decades. So here's what we uncovered this week in Boomtown. Our big story this week in Boomtown, Microsoft pulling back on its $1 billion plan to build 3 new data centers in Central Ohio. The company telling 10 TV it is, quote, evaluating these sites in line with our investment strategy. So what does this mean for the farmland already sold and slated to house these massive buildings? Microsoft was just one of several major companies bringing Silicon Valley to the Silicon Heartland. So now, without the sites in New Albany, Heath, and Hebron, many people are asking, is this bigger sign of a shifting Boomtown? Thanks so much for joining me for This Week in Boomtown. I'm Angela Ann. We do have a lot to get to about that story and the reaction to how this will all play out in the years to come. First, though, let's get a look at the headlines this week. Expect more people to flock to Hilliard, all because of this. Look at this on your screen. The new Hilliard Athletic Complex is finally open. It has 20 new grass fields, 2 turf fields, and more than 3 miles around the complex to walk, run, and ride. One of Central Ohio's largest CPA firms is moving its headquarters to Dublin. Wayland CPA, founded back in 1945, plans to reopen later this summer. The city gave the firm a $20,000 grant that lands the company in Dublin for at least 5 years. And Mount Carmel Dublin is opening its newest hospital. This week, the hospital held a ribbon cutting. It'll have room for 60 inpatients, along with primary care, orthopedics, neurology, cardiology, and surgical services. The hospital will also be able to put its virtual nursing system into play. It officially opens April 22nd.
Our pre-op and post-op area, which is where we are, those nurses are all going to be cross-trained, and so they can help each other out, and it's all one area.
And the hospital is located at I-270 and Sawmill Parkway. That's in Northwest Columbus. It will also offer community health and wellness programs. Now to Microsoft and the plan to push back its $1 billion investment for 3 new data centers in Heath, Hebron, and New Albany. When the news first broke earlier this week, we reached out to leaders in each of those cities and villages affected. So here's 10 TV's Carla Rogner with more on what they had to say.
Heath City Council met just hours after that announcement from Microsoft. The mayor says he was surprised to learn that plans had changed, but he, along with leaders in New Albany and Hebron, are staying optimistic. This farmland in Heath was supposed to be the site of a major Microsoft data center, along with sites in New Albany and Hebron. But now those plans are on hold.
Microsoft has decided to delay.
Heath Mayor Mark John says his city had not been relying on the project to be done by a certain time.
How important is this project to your economy here?
We're fortunate in Heath in that we have had about 15 years of strong job growth in our industrial corridor. We don't have our eggs in one basket.
A Microsoft spokesperson says the company will keep the land and continue with agreements to fund roadway and utility upgrades in the areas where Microsoft would move in.
But it's not as though we're out anything. You're not out of what you didn't have. And so what we do have are some commitments to help finance some very important infrastructure projects in the community.
In the meantime, the spaces in Hebron and Heath will continue to be used for farmland, and site work will begin in New Albany. Hebron Mayor Valerie Mokas is taking the delay as an opportunity to regroup.
You can imagine a small village of 2,700 people. This was going to be a huge shift. I think also it buys us a little time to reflect on what we do and don't want in other spaces in our village or next to our village.
New Albany's Mayor Sloan Spalding declined an interview but shared a statement writing, "We understand that large-scale projects like this require flexibility, and we appreciate Microsoft's continued engagement with the city throughout this process." Construction would have begun in July and wrapped up by 2027. A spokesperson for Microsoft could not say when the company could revisit building plans for the 3 sites. Reporting in Heath, Carla Rogner, 10 TV News.
Carla, thank you. Now, we're also hearing from people who live in Heath, one of the 3 sites that was ready to welcome Microsoft. Leaders there told 10 TV's Tara Jabor that this delay is really a good thing, and she also spoke with an economics professor about the larger impact. Here's what they had to say.
So I knew they were going to be building, but I didn't know where.
Cindy Stoops lives right across the street from what was going to be the future Microsoft data center in Heath. Stoops loves her neighborhood.
This is so nice and home away from home as far as the city over there. For 5 minutes to the city versus all the other construction that we're dealing with around here.
She moved back to her home state after being away for over 30 years.
We came back to where we were born and away from that hustle and bustle and the traffic.
Now she feels that hustle and bustle is slowly seeping into her neighborhood. Stoops says she's happy that Microsoft is taking a pause on the data center, but is unhappy that she's still surrounded by development.
Not real happy because this road is a little 2-lane road. They're going to have to expand the road.
Microsoft didn't give a reason why they are delaying the projects. I spoke to Jared Pinson, a professor of economics at Cedarville University, about the decision. He says there are 2 scenarios.
The worst case scenario is that it means that the projects will not be built. When you start pushing a timeline out to 5 years or even an indeterminate period of time.
But Pinson says there is a best case scenario.
They are biding their time. They are reallocating capital to make their business stronger so that when they come back to their projects in Ohio, that they'll hit the ground running.
For Stoops, she hopes that Microsoft backs out for good. She wants to see the farmland stay in her quiet neighborhood.
We're not living in a little city anymore. We're having all this construction going on.
Now, if you think this is just an Ohio decision, it's not. Microsoft's announcement to pull back on data center plans is happening all around the world, from Indonesia to the UK and even Illinois, North Dakota, and Wisconsin. So these are all part of the major decision. The question really is why? And that might be actually the money question of the week. So we're going to go ahead and bring in 10 TV's Kevin Landers. He's been looking deeper into what's really going on. And Kevin, we know that you talk a lot about Boomtown and you've talked to a lot of experts. So it's great to see you for this topic here. What are they telling you this week when they heard about this Microsoft announcement?
I don't think they were completely surprised, but at the same time, it wasn't something that was expected. I think that looking at the current economic conditions that are out there, the fact that Microsoft decided to pause its plan does give some people the pause to allow more electricity conversations to take place about how these data centers are to be built. So it's still, I think, a lot of unknowns at this point of what's happening. TD Cowen was the first to report Microsoft's decision to pull back on its data center plans in February. Microsoft says it added more data capacity last year than any year before and plans to spend $80 billion this year on infrastructure. Others who follow the industry believe Microsoft's decision had to do with an oversupply of data centers. Reuters reports that Microsoft's decision is connected to the slow payoffs with ChatGPT and the rise of DeepSeek. DeepSeek-provided AI technology can be achieved at a much lower cost. One expert we spoke to believes there's a simpler reason.
In fact, I think it has more to do with OpenAI in the sense that OpenAI is looking to fund its own data centers. So I think they'll still continue to expand. They just won't need to expand quite as fast as they initially thought. If they thought OpenAI was going to really lean on Microsoft, to really lean on their cloud, I think they would continue on the path they were going on. But I also think that, they're still committed to $80 billion in capital expenditures this year.
Albano also believes Microsoft's decision may also have to do with electricity constraints and the money it takes to power these data centers.
And Gavin, that's something you just mentioned before is, this delay might give some cities and leaders time, right, to plan how we're going to power the grids and everything like that. So might be good news, but we're also hearing that people might actually be paying more now for their bills even before these data centers come in.
Yeah, so AEP told us that this June, we expect to see our energy costs go up about $28 more per month.
Wow.
So why is that happening? Well, AEP tells me the increase in cost is not because of anything it's doing. Instead, it's the increased cost of generating power, which doesn't involve them. Central Ohio has seen a major shift in electrical demand. More data centers, more people, more homes, etc., have all added more electrical demands to the grid and the need to generate more power. That cost is then passed on to consumers. Without more generation, AEP says the cost to provide energy goes up. For the average household in Ohio, this means electricity costs could be between 10 and 15% more, which is about 2 cents more per kilowatt hour.
The supply of reliable generation is not keeping up with the incredible demand that AEP Ohio and other utilities across the country are seeing, especially from data center customers. And that means that the part of your bill that's tied to generation, that price is going to go up. I can tell you that we expect a monthly increase of about $27 a month to start June 1st.
Wow. So June, no matter what, they're going up. And then once these data centers are up and running, who knows how much more we're going to pay.
And that's the tricky question because right now there is a tariff or bill in front of the PUCO, and they're trying to get a contract with these data centers saying that if you're going to come to Ohio, you're going to need to make a long-term commitment. Yeah. And they're going to have to tell the PUCO and AEP exactly how much electricity they're going to use. And if they use more or less, they still have to pay that full price. So these data centers have to be very, very specific as to how much energy they have. That way, the consumer doesn't have to pick up their bill.
Because it seems like we're always caught in the middle, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk beyond Microsoft now, because we're seeing other big names out there either delaying or just completely shutting down. We know Amplify Bio, they just announced they're closing doors. This was just a little over a year after Amplify Bio celebrated this ribbon cutting for a second facility in New Albany. And if you remember back in 2021, Kevin, they started as a gene therapy spinoff from Battelle, so everyone expected it to be great. In West Jefferson, this was a $200 million facility. Amplify Bio says the reason they are shutting down is because the, quote, climate for biotech investment has shifted significantly. And on top of that, of course, we all know about Intel, right? It's not slated to open until the year 2030. That's 5 years after its original date. A lot of people say one major reason is the slow rollout of the CHIPS Act money. Another reason, the tariffs on China. So we have so many factors here, Kevin, which really brings us to this question. Based on these experts, what they're seeing out there, and with all these tariffs that we're seeing, are they concerned about ripple effects that we might see here in Central Ohio?
I don't think they have a crystal ball to actually know exactly what they expect. Clearly, this has brought a lot of uncertainty to the market about these tariffs and what that's going to mean in terms of building these new facilities. In terms of Intel, I think the bigger question is, what is going to happen with the CHIPS Act funding? Before he ran for president, Donald Trump, even Bernie Moreno, had raised questions about the way that money was being spent. If there's anything that people should be worried about is how that money is going to, whether that money could potentially stop or could be reconfigured. That could add even more delays to Intel. It's still a wait and see game.
All right, so certainly not the end of the story here, but Kevin, thank you so much. Some great insight, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And now to this, 3 large housing efforts just received millions of dollars backing their plans for Columbus. City Council this week set aside more than $2.8 million. The federal funding will help address homelessness and also provide home ownership for low-income families. One project will build 60 supportive housing units on Jenkins Avenue near Marion Village, that's in South Columbus. Another 50 units on Mound Street on the near east side, and then one home in the hilltop of West Columbus. Now, for anyone looking to buy a home in this growing economy, that first house can be stressful. You might ask questions like, who do I talk to first? What can I afford? Or how much do I need for that down payment? Well, here's Colin Dorsey with some answers to those tough questions.
It's a process that can be overwhelming.
At first when I come in, I just kind of nervous and don't know anything.
First-time home buyers looking to start their journey. The best in the business say buying a home is still possible.
It's informing them of exactly where they're at in their process today.
We have 500 or 600 branches across the state, so it's really cool that they can come here and learn.
Tom Walker is with the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. He says far too often buyers go through the process in the wrong order.
Get pre-approved with a lender. That's critical. That way you know how much you can afford, and then you can go out and get a realtor, start looking.
I told him we're gonna go.
Yeah.
First-time homebuyers Madison Evans and Tori Freeman are ready to get out of the rent cycle. And with little ones at home, they say this is the next big step.
I want to make sure that they have a place that they can say or they can call home.
One concern they both share, that all-important credit score.
We probably need some help, but that's what we found out. That's what the banks and lenders are here for, to help us.
But after today, Evans knows they have options.
Of the first-time buyers programs that we've learned about, the loan assistance, there's grants out there that you don't have to pay back, so you can go to the table with zero money down.
Now knowing what's out there, Freeman says any fears about buying are gone.
If they feel like they're against you, they're not. They're trying to help you, and not just you, but your family. And just try to do your best to work with them because they're here to help.
And that was Colin Dorsey reporting for us. Thank you so much. Now we know many families look at the schools first as they start to think about where to put down roots. And that can be tough given many districts are right now in dire straits for space. Southwest Licking Schools told us just this week that they are out of classrooms. And if this bond on the May ballot does not pass, that is going to dramatically impact students for years to come. Here's Bryn Caswell with that story.
Space in school. Something Superintendent Dr. Casey Perkins says is vital to her students' education.
We will need a place for kids to attend school, and those 3 buildings that were already over capacity are going to continue to feel that strain.
Southwest Licking Schools is asking taxpayers to pass a bond in May that will build a new middle school for 5th and 6th graders off Refugee Road and expand the high school and its parking lot.
We're going to see, unfortunately, teachers on carts. We're going to have to repurpose those places where we have small groups and, we work with students with individual needs to make sure we have adequate spacing for all of our students.
A study the school district had conducted in 2017 was wrong. The study predicted that there would be 4,100 students in the district for the 2025-2026 school year, but right now the district has 5,100 students. Now, this bond issue isn't just for schools. It also proposes building a new training facility and aquatic center in partnership with the YMCA. This would be called the Spear, and it would be built right here off of Watkins Road. Now, some taxpayers aren't totally on board with this.
It would be nice to have one, but to pay for it, I really don't want to. I'm on a fixed income, so.
Pataskala resident David Arrett feels the bond issue passed almost 10 years ago did enough.
Really not looking forward to it, but it is what it is. So if it passes, it passes, but I'm not going to support it.
The bond will cost taxpayers $12.25 per every $100,000 of their home's value. The total cost for the 3 new buildings totals to over $114 million.
For the taxpayers out there that live in your area that don't have children that attend your schools, why should they care about this?
I would tell our community, our schools are what makes the community, those kids in the schools, what the schools bring, and as they go on to be productive citizens, we want them to have, facilities. We want them to be able to have, the best.
We'll see what voters have to say in May. Well, more people, more cars, more congestion. If you drive anywhere on US 23 near the North Outer Belt, then you know it is busy. This week in Boomtown, the state is putting aside $500,000 to study a proposed bypass for US 23 in Delaware County. This would connect the state route to I-71. The goal is to divert traffic around a really busy stretch that's filled with traffic lights. The study will examine 5 potential routes, and ODOT says this is separate from the planned $1.6 billion reconstruction of US 23. Well, on the topic of transportation now, Central Ohio could see an entirely new way to get around. We're talking about passenger rail. In the House budget this week, lawmakers included money to support this idea, and 10 TV's Tara Jabbour shows us the idea is quite an important one.
In the state budget, the Ohio House has included $25,000 for passenger rail. Now, advocates say this is a big deal because it shows that the state supports the future of transportation in Ohio. Passenger rail is one step closer to making its way to Ohio.
So by providing a cheap and competitive transportation option in the form of a train that would go at a similar speed to driving or faster.
Right now, plans are in the works for rail that would connect Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Dayton, something Radakovich says would connect all Ohio resources.
It'll allow people to be connected to jobs, people to be connected to families, to utilize some of the incredible healthcare systems that are across our state.
There's another route proposed for a line from Chicago to Pittsburgh passing through Columbus. The money from the State House would pay for all aboard Ohio to join the Interstate Midwest Passenger Rail Commission, which would connect Ohio to the big players of passenger rail.
Every single state goes up and they share what work they're doing for each of the routes that they're planning. Amtrak is there. The Federal Railroad Administration is there.
We talked to people in the short north about trains. People told us that they would love to see routes come through Ohio.
100%. I was just in Tokyo, Japan, and they have an amazing rail system.
My family and I actually had used a train to go to Chicago. It was super quick. It was super awesome. It was super cheap.
Radakovich says one of the biggest impacts of rail in Ohio would be the economic boost. The construction alone would bring thousands of jobs.
The hospitality industry, but then also just restaurants as a whole, hotels. More people moving places means more people spending money and a stronger community.
Reporting in Columbus, Tara Jabbour, 10 TV News.
Say with me, all aboard, right? Well, let us know what you think about this or any other questions you have related to Central Ohio's rapid growth. We want to hear from you. You can text us your questions and concerns at this number, 614-460-3345. And if you're watching us on YouTube, well, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can always drop your question in the comment section, and we'll do our best to respond. Well, I'm Angela Ann. Thank you so much for watching This Week in Boomtown. We'll see you next time.